just for people who don't know me, my name is Petra Moltern-Hill, and I'm a professor at Nottingham Business School, Nottingham Trent University in the UK, and I'm the co-chair of the United Nations Prime Working Group on Climate Change. And this event today is one of our events. And if you are not familiar what Prime actually is, we have Ye here, who will be first shortly giving you an overview about Prime before we come to our core speaker, to Ray, in a moment. So over to you, Ye.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you for your warm introduction. Let me share my slide right now. Hi, everyone. My name is Ye. I'm from Prime, the Principles for Responsible Management Education. Greeting to all of the participants, no matter in which part of the world you are right now. It's a great pleasure to have you all here with us. I wish it will become a very exciting webinar for all of us. I will share with you a little bit about Prime. For those who are not familiar with Prime, I just provide you with a brief background. The initiative was established in 2007 by an international task force of deans, university presidents, and different academic institutions. As you might guess with our name, we are an United Nations sponsored initiative and a sister initiative of UN Global Compact, the largest corporate sustainability initiative in the world. We are created in a spirit that if you want to change business, you need to teach business differently. So we serve as a platform to raise sustainability profile of business schools around the world. To do this, we work through 6 principles to equip future business leaders with the skills they need to address sustainable development goals and by align with the UN Global Compact. To give you an idea in the number of our reach, we are proud to say that we have more than 880 signatories now. We operate currently in 99 countries. We have 17 active regional chapters. And last but not least, we have 9 working groups. Prime working groups really enable us to reach our mission vision. They are networks that transform responsible management education by focusing on different issue areas in SDGs. These working groups operate through different initiatives, events, activities, webinars, as we have here today, to bring educators, scholars, and practitioners around the table in order to transform responsible management education. Please do not hesitate to send us emails if you have any related ideas or questions. Okay, I think that's enough for Prime and working groups. Now I will head back to Petra to introduce Climate Change and Environment Working Group.
Okay, yeah, and I won't talk you through the whole slide. It's kind of a bit of the background and everything from our Prime working group on climate change. I think what I really want to highlight to you is just that you can become a member. So if you have found out about this event through another channel, through an email or something, please do sign up to. You can see it here. It's UN Prime Climate. And we have a newsletter where we announce these events, like, for example, the event today, and also other things like good articles, other events, and so on. So please do sign up as a member, and you get this information for free. And obviously these webinars, as the one you're just watching, is also for free. Okay, so I won't take more time because I'm really excited that Ray has actually agreed to present today, and I'm really looking forward. And I have her book kind of next to me here because I really like this book. I would really encourage you to read this book. I think I might talk a little bit about it as well because it's a fantastic book, but how we can actually take climate leadership. And I really like the term that Ray has created, that it's team humanity who has to solve this problem. And I think it's really all of us who have to work together. So I won't talk about all the other great things Ray has done because I really want her to talk about this, how we should do things. And I want to get her going now. Okay, thanks so much, Ray, for attending and coming today and speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity to speak to this particular group of people who are really working on teaching climate and teaching climate leadership, and I'm just thrilled to be here. So thank you. Now let me try to share my screen, see if we can do that humble activity here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. It's going to go back and forth. Yeah, it's all working.
Working fine. It's working great.
Okay. The only thing I want to do is get rid of myself up here. Thank you very much, Ray. Well, welcome everybody. I'm thrilled to be here again to speak with you. We're here together today to really talk about how we can educate climate leaders, individuals who can push the climate agenda in their companies, in their communities, in the world. And there is, usually I can say there is no other more important initiative that we educators can do. But of course, since we are now at war, we have to obviously address that problem first, or simultaneously, if you will. So what I offer in this, in my work is a model of what we might teach in the university, and what I actually think we ought to be teaching in the university and in business schools. And I offer backup materials. If you go to my website, which is rayandre.com, you will find, if you scroll down, a whole lot of teaching materials that are free and based on experiential learning that you can take away and use and develop courses or develop curricula. My experience with teaching climate leadership goes back more than 10 years now. And at the beginning, I taught something very different, not nearly as comprehensive as what I teach now. And what happened for me during that 10 years was I just listened to my students and I said, oops, they need to know this and they need to know that. And so I built this model. In the book, it's called the 5 practices model. It could be the 12 practices or the 6 practices. 5 practices seems to work pretty well for most general audiences. And this model is very in-depth. I'm going to flip through it today, and especially this audience, I strongly urge you to read the book because it's so much more nuanced than what I can present here. At the same time, you want to react to the book and the model, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's something that you could push, for example, or use or adapt to your university or your college of business in order to build out the curriculum in the most effective way. Just one little anecdote from my experience. Over the years, I've been locally somewhat of a climate activist. I wouldn't say as strong as most others, but somewhat involved. And I'm always looking at the natural world, the natural side of things, and trying to make people appreciate that. Well, we all know that there are lots now, compared to a dozen years ago, there are now lots and lots of environmental films, and they're usually so beautiful. They show beautiful glaciers and endangered species, and they're elegant. And nowadays, so at the beginning, I was like, wow, these are great. This is terrific, makes wonderful classroom material. Nowadays, I think of the science and the movies that present the science as only the tiniest part of what we're doing. And I get very frustrated because you might watch a very expensive movie about the Antarctica, the Antarctic, and it lasts maybe 50 minutes of beautiful scenery and some discussion of the problem, and then 10 minutes of what we can do about it. And what we can do about it often boils down to, we really need to cooperate more to get this done. And these movies now drive me crazy, because there's so much more that students need to know and that we all need to be thinking about in terms of change. How do we get out of this problem? And so that's been my focus, and I've only gotten more passionate about it as I see our curricula being sidelining change in some ways. So that's my first rant of the day. You'll have more. What I do is teach change for climate change. So I've called it climate leadership. It's really about how do we get organized? How do we get led? How do we motivate team humanity? Because we're all a part of this group of people who want to get things done. How do we motivate ourselves to make better decisions and to teach our students to design and implement effective change? Where is change taught traditionally in a business school? Certainly under the topics that you see here: leadership, org design, innovation, business government relationships, things of that notion, but not generally in the scientific disciplines. That the change doesn't go there. I am a little concerned, again, one of the little rants of the morning is that I'm a little concerned that so many young students are so proud that they're taking, I'm studying environmental science. And I just want to say to them, where is the change? What are you doing with that? What are they teaching you about what you can do with that? I know we have the skills to do that in business schools, but whether we have the will to do it is another story. So our challenges are, how does your university's curriculum address this change issue? What is your commitment to ensuring that students in your university get a broad climate change education? And in order to do that, we need to develop models for content and for pedagogy on how change works. And again, I'm only going to give you just the slightest skim of what I do today. Certainly, there's a lot about the pedagogy on my website in articles that I've written and others that I've referenced to others.
Thank you so much. Can please everybody make sure they are muted, otherwise it is a bit difficult. Yeah, everyone please mute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. So I have developed these climate change goals. At one point on a blog, I called it a manifesto because I was in a ranting mood. Climate change goals for university curricula. These are the things that I believe, based on my decade of teaching and listening to students, and also, of course, reading the real world, of the sort of things that students need to do. For example, you can read through these yourselves, but just for example, students need to understand how to contextualize science politically. Do the courses in your science curricula do that? I don't know. They need to understand how social science can guide decision-making. It's not just what you hear in the media. There's so much more to be understood as a leader about how to effectively lead, and so on. So today I'm going to go over the 5 practices model with you. We're going to do a brief survey of whether to what extent these 5 practices are being taught in your school. We're going to offer some breakout time for discussion, and then we'll wrap it up. So the 5 practices model does align with the chapters in my book. And again, the reasoning there is much more subtle than what I can give. I can only give you the topical basis today. Based on 5 practices, and I define a practice as a set of facts, theories, and strategies, and then I apply these to drive policies and so on towards our climate goals. I am an organizational psychologist. I work across levels. That means from main focus on organizations, but also with a good knowledge of individual and a kind of sociological level of change. The 5 practices are really just logical. First, you got to get the truth. Then you have to assess what the risks are. You have to weigh the stakes to different stakeholders, the different industries, the different energy industries, the communities, the countries, and so on, and work with that. You have to define what business is going to do, what is going to be their commitment, and what they're actually going to do. And finally, Team Humanity needs to have a plan. So it's just based on logic, nothing, fancy there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to whip through the 5 practices. And at the end of each practice, I am going to put up a slide that says, something like, what is your university doing? And what I'd like you to do is take notes in a way, because in the end, I'm going to give you a survey, and I'm going to ask you on a Likert scale from 1 to 5 to say, to what extent do you believe this is being taught in your university? So for example, practice 1, blah, 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 blah. Just jot down a number from 1 to 5 that will allow you to remember what you thought about this when we get to that survey at the end. So practice 1 is to get the truth. And you might think that I would nail people right there with a bunch of climate facts. Well, no, I decided to abstract throughout this book, to look at the process, and to give the students the ability to look at the process. It's like, you don't give them something to eat, you teach them how to grow something to eat. And so I look at the psychology of the truth. And I base that on system 1 and system 2 of the great psychologist Kahneman. And I make the case that leaders need to understand the psychology so that they can both listen to other people well and also persuade them. I also make a big point of making students good lay readers of climate and energy science. So they have to be, when they're reading along, let's say in the magazine article, and they see a number, how do they react to that number? So let me give you an example here. So remember, is your university teaching this? Okay, so take a good look at that. Do you abstract in that way, or is it just, this is the science and this is what it is, without teaching people how to use it? We know that our business people are not going to be scientists. So they have to face the question, how much can I really understand when I've got this scientist in front of me telling me X or Y? And should I try to do it myself by looking at the basic science? Well, to some extent I need to do that, but maybe I need to hire consultants. Should I make or buy the science? So is your university teaching something like this, your business school or your university, just on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the yes, and 1 being much less. So, I said I want to make students savvy consumers of things they come across. So imagine that an energy company has just discovered a shale play that might yield 3 billion barrels of oil. And the local media in that area, picked up by the national media, are like, wow, they found 3 billion barrels of oil in Iowa or somewhere. At current rates of world consumption, how long will this oil last the world? I'm going to ask you guys that question, and you can put your answers into chat. From here, it's tough for me to monitor that at the same time that I'm doing this. So
no, I will tell you what people are writing in the chat. Don't worry, because I know it's not possible. So if everyone could write in the chat your guess.
You can write it direct to Petra if you don't want the world to see it. So 3 billion barrels of oil. How much is that really? Now, when people see the word billion, they go, wow, that's a lot of oil. And then they relax and they say, oh, no problems. So Petra, what kind of answers do you have?
We have all sorts of, no idea, 2 months, 3 months, 1 month, 1 year. It's all sorts of things. So people are guessing, I would guess 1 month again.
The answer is the world uses about 100 million barrels of oil every day. Rule, just a gross number, but approximate, good for estimation. So 3 billion barrels last 30 days. So now a lot of people don't get this. And as a leader has to think on their feet, they need to be able to react to 3 billion barrels of oil and say, oh, that's not so much anyhow. And you can apply this, for example, to the amount of reserves that the United States has, and to many other things. Very useful number to have in your head. And so that's the kind of practical knowledge that I would hope our students would come away with. Okay, so these are the main tools I use when I'm pushing this model on my poor students. I use the book, which is published by the University of Toronto. I use this particular philosophy of teaching, which is available in this article in the Journal of Management Education. And I also have put together this handbook, which is free on my website, of exercises and so on. So just by way of example, this is the sort of thing that you would find in the beginning of the handbook. You would find some introduction, you would find exercises and quizzes, you'll find media and assessment tools also. So practice 2 is, let me just check the time here. We're whipping along, whip along a little faster. Practice 2 is assessing the risks. So in this chapter, again, I don't hit, I don't engage the students emotionally, I engage them more intellectually, understand the psychology of risk. And then the actual risks are here in the chapter, but also these other things. For example, at the bottom, how leaders and organizations make decisions on managing risk. So professional risk analysis. There's a whole profession out there that students could be interested, especially quantitative students that could be interested in going in. So is your university teaching this? This is practice 2. Give yourself a score from 1 to 5, somewhere in your university. And here again is the, from my handbook, some of the things that we do. So one of my favorite things is a 1 hour, 1.5 hour assessing drought in the San Joaquin Valley, where you push students to really try to find data on how drought is going to affect that, that valley. And then there's a wonderful talk by Carrie Emanuel that talks about, you know, what is really the truth about what's happening. Okay, so practice 3 is to weigh the stakes. Now, here we look at all the different stakeholders, the oil industry, the gas industry, communities, and so on. And we weigh businesses' predominant impact on the environment against government's responsibility to protect it. And we look very much at the stakes and power of the different sectors. I abstracted again to get students to reconsider the tragedy of the commons. Everybody thinks, oh, I know how things work because in the tragedy of the commons, you know, the people overrun the commons, and the answer is regulation. And that's just a little too simple. There's something out there called the stag hunt dilemma that I urge you to take a look at, try to discuss it with your students, because it really brings out much more of the competition among stakeholders. You know, the competition between different countries, for example. And then in every practice in the book, I bring in social science. This was me. I was, you know, so curious to see what would the social scientists say about, for example, altruism in intergroup conflict. How much are groups really willing to give up? And what kinds of leaders are more likely to be altruistic and not? Okay, so is your university teaching that somewhere? Give yourself a number. So practice 4 is define the business of business. Now, most businesses are pursuing weak sustainability versus strong sustainability. And our business schools are following along. They're focusing on organizations, people who do what I do, which is to assume that growth is finite, not infinite, just for example. People that are doing that are often not in business schools, they're somewhere else. But if they are in business schools, they tend to be in, and just to give you an American perspective, I can't characterize the rest of the world, but in my country, the people that are interested in strong sustainability tend to be in religious affiliated schools, which is nice that they're doing that, but I'd really like to see it in a broader segment of the business schools. One of the things that I talk about here is talking directly to our students as to what kind of a company do you want to work for? If you're working for a company that has a weak sustainability culture, purely, and you have a strong sustainability mindset, you're going to be plenty unhappy, and you're going to have to be careful. So anyhow, I talk about that, and I talk about climate change initiatives tend to be process improvements and the difficulties of doing process improvements in companies, and some of the other obvious things that companies do. So again, is your university teaching this? Is it teaching what business schools are teaching? Is it self-aware? Is it talking about business culture? Is it talking about burnout based on being in the wrong culture? Is it talking about the practical considerations in businesses? And obviously, this is one small chapter in a wealth of information that's available elsewhere. So practice 5 is learning about various proposed solutions to climate change, like cap and trade, rationing, ecological versus environmental economics, and so on. And I include in this the whole segment called "What's the Plan?" What are we actually thinking of doing? And we also weigh in that chapter the implications of our strengths and weaknesses as decision makers, which argument has built up throughout the book, and so on. So just glance through that, and I'm going to ask you the big question, as always: is your university teaching this? Again, here it is. And this is a really hard chapter for me to encapsulate in a few points. Please read it. Part of global leadership is requiring a plan. What's the plan? What is a plan? Kyoto was a plan because it had teeth. It fined people who were going, were producing too much CO2, but it failed. And Paris was not a plan, and it had similar issues. And I bring up again the pedagogical supports I have for this, just to give you a sense. There's a whole lot of really good stuff out there about people's plans, and I'd like to make a push for not only Petra's carbon literacy training, and it's, to me, what is the core, which is the En-ROADS scientifically updated, I think they say monthly, activity that you can run in your classrooms, which really helps people understand why making a plan is so difficult. So is your university teaching this? Actually, I'm going to give you one question for both global leadership and the plan, I think, at the end. So throughout the book, I review various social scientists, and I just listed a few of them here for you, just to give you a sense that, yeah, I went to, I looked at, I don't know, monopoly interests, and I tried to figure out, is that a likely thing to happen here, blah, blah, and so on. Based on the social science, as I read it, I have a hypothesis that the cooperation, let's just broadly say the difference between cooperation and competition, are, as a team humanity, we are not likely to be able to cooperate quickly enough or effectively enough to solve the climate problem. And that's because of who we are. We don't cooperate well. We have 1% of the population, at least the population that have been studied, is sociopaths. Some people put that, people with sociopathic tendencies, 5 to 15% of the population. And as we can see in our modern times now, it's difficult to manage that. But on the other hand, team humanity is creative, intelligent, adventurous, assertive, competitive. And all these things are characteristics of our entrepreneurs. So my conclusion in terms of what we should be pushing yes, we have to work on our political ability to cooperate, but we also need to promote. I think the thing that's likely to save us is innovation. And I am not an expert in innovation. I just suggest these resources to you. Bill Gates is totally on top of this. And I don't love his book. I think I wouldn't put it this way. It's interesting, but it's so current that it gets outdated very quickly. I think the main thing is to point out that Bill Gates is connecting innovation and climate, and pushing that, and working with a lot of other folks of his well, close to his power, who are thinking about this. And I think it would be very good if our students were to follow that, and to learn more about innovation. And another place to do that is through something called the MIT Energy Initiative, which is you can get their newsletter, which is fascinating. So how much time did we? Okay, great. So that's what I would like to say. We're now going to put you into groups. Oh, sorry, no, we're not, Yi is now going to do the survey of, so we can get a flavor of, where we think, how much of these things are actually being taught in university curricula. So Yi, I'm going to give this to you. Can you take it?
Yes. Thank you, Rhea. Thank you for your amazing sharing. Now we are sending Mentimeter link to the chat. So everyone, you could go to the link and try to answer the question. Then we will see the result.
So I think when everyone has answered the Menti link, we will share the results now. I think you will share the results.
Yes, I can share the results right now.
And Yi, you're going to capture those results one way or another for us, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Ooh, can we zoom in on that?
Yes.
Okay, so what do we got?
So this looks really interesting. Has everyone already, it might be updating itself. Is this the final one already? Maybe it's the final one.
Can we have it back? Oh.
Yeah, okay. This is actually very interesting. If you want to put a few qualitative comments in the chat about this would be also very interesting. So,
yes, Petra, what we're going to do is we're going to ask, we're going to put them into groups and have them to share best practices and in the groups, and discuss the results and share their best practices and make their recommendations, and have a leader in the group summarize that and put that in the chat. So I don't want to pause right now to do it. I want them to do it after they talk. Okay.
Okay. No, this is fine.
Okay.
So we will, yeah. So we will break you out, and hopefully you can share. I'm a bit pleased that we have better results than I expected to have there. But so Ray, do you want to give the instructions again for the breakout rooms, and then people will break you out into groups to bring things back afterwards?
So we're going to put you in groups of 4, 7 times 7, 4. Yeah, that's probably about right still. 4 or 5 maybe. And we're going to put you in there for, let's say, up until 10 minutes to 12. So that'll be about 12 minutes or so. And in your groups, please react to these results. Number 1, please share your best practices, your knowledge of what schools, including your own, are doing a great job of covering all this material. And then have one person, your leader, give us a sense of what your discussion produced. What were the main things that you said? So 3 things: discuss the results, share your best practices, and post it in the chat for all of us. We're going to capture the chat. We won't obviously all of us be able to read everything that's in the chat, but we can get some of it. And then we're going to come back together, and we'll have a few minutes left together to discuss further. Okay?
Yeah, okay, so then he will break you up. So please go into your room now, and yes, and we will share the PowerPoint, but please stay with us. We will, it would be lovely to share all the results, what is already happening in different schools afterwards, after you have discussed it. Okay, so please go to your room. Okay, I will go to the first room now as well.
Okay, thank you, Patria.
And here you will move people if they haven't found a place. You will move them to a group, no?
Okay.
You stay
Yes.
behind, no? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
You're
okay.
welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Kalamingting. Sorry, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing your name right. Are you here with us? We are now going to different breakout rooms to discuss about good practices. If you want to join in one of the breakout rooms, you can tell me and I can invite you. Or if you want to stay here, it's fine as well. Thank you. Hi, Patria.
I think you can stop the recording for the moment here. And now is this right? Yeah. And we also, I hope you're okay that we are recording your great ideas as well, because it will be fantastic to share them with people who couldn't join today, but who want to see the recording, that they also get your ideas as well when you put them now or share them with us. Okay, over to you, Ray, again. You're muted at the moment.
Thank you. Well, folks, I was with Lavinia Joseph Lazar, and I'm sorry. Anyhow, she was speaking from her position at Copenhagen Business School, partly. Anyhow, she was encapsulating, and I hope she speaks about the powerlessness. It's really wonderful to have an office, such a prime office in that university, but at the same time that it's accreditation that really drives, for example, that drives change in the university. Anyhow, so that's where I was. Now, we can report out here. You can ask me questions. Why don't you just raise your hands or speak up, and whatever you'd like to do.
you want us to use real hands or digital hands? I've put both up.
Oh, I love it that you just jumped in. There's not so many of us. Just jump in verbally.
Is that all right? Okay, I'll start. So I was in a group with Ruth, Jesus and Anna. And so we had a student, 2 academics and someone from industry. And Petra came in and told us off because we were talking about the problems rather than the solutions, standard. So what we did in our 3 minutes left after we got told off was look at what we are doing. So I'm at Newcastle University in the UK. So we've just started a new interdisciplinary school, School X, which is a space that we can bring together all the pockets that are doing 1 to 5, but in isolation. We're trying to find a way of bringing them together through this interdisciplinary school to do interdisciplinary offers, not programs, but provide a space so science can pick a social science module that might help and things. So we're still working it through, it's there. We also talked about working with external organisations within the institution, how we do that. And then Jesus pointed out the point of working with organisations to develop their existing talent, not just their future talent. So sort of a carbon literacy upskilling or something of existing employees and training to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not being done, but it was something that we could see as a solution for one of the problems within organisations, because we work on digital upskilling. So why don't we work on carbon upskilling or carbon literacy upskilling or something like that? There.
Great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Natalie, I think, has been the next one raising her hand.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So, Ray, from your experience talking to various universities and business schools around the world, which I imagine you spend quite a lot of your time doing, what do you see as a major hurdle to get teaching carbon change and get some leadership out there started? Because when we go from 0 to somewhere, what do you see the main hurdles being? Is it a cultural change? Is it just pure resources as in stuff and money? Is it time? What do you think the major hurdles are?
I think that's one of the reasons we had this workshop, is for us to start to list those. I really haven't been talking to universities all over the world. I've talked to a few. It's not my, I'm retired and I don't have the resources to do a major research project like that, but it would sure be interesting. My instinct tells me that business schools are in the weak sustainability model and they're comfortable there and they're not going to move out. And the reason religious business schools and is because they have an innate built-in cultural moral guide, whereas the business school, the moral guide is the market will prevail. And if it's not that, explicitly, it's often easy for people to hide behind that, I think, and not have to deal with the moral dimension or the so I'm it is cultural. It's within the business school versus the rest of the university, or versus a different, more complex morality that would drive us forward. I don't know. You want to react to that?
Yeah. So I guess in a university, maybe the scientific community might be a bit more switched on, and just because that's what they do, they look at data all the time. And so have you sort of witnessed business schools or universities that maybe have had collaboration across faculties to get such a project started? For instance, I was just thinking, listening to colleagues in the breakout room, maybe a good way to do this would be just to go in and see the biologists and the engineers and see, you just get out of the business school.
Well, now that you mention it, I have literally walked through, I don't remember the name of the college, but, or maybe, at the University of Vermont, walked through their green buildings and observed how they have integrated the science with the action and the business, for example, solar businesses. And I'm sure there are other universities that are also doing that. And of course, the University of Vermont's relatively small. And so that makes it easier for them to integrate the science and the practitioner, let's say. So yes, it's happening. And I think it's, you know, it's our role, your role as folks that are interested in this to I don't know, somehow put that
Go and test, go and test it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
I
thank
think we are unfortunately already at the end of the session. Please, if you have more time, please do stay behind. I think Ray and I would be very happy to discuss a bit further with you. If you have great ideas and you did share them only in your small group, but you would like to present them like today Ray has done with her material to the wider group here, and we would like to actually contribute to do a webinar with us, would be fantastic. Send us an email either to Ye or to me, would be great. But also, I think Ray has to offer that obviously if you want to work with her material, which she is sharing for free, which is fantastic, please go back to Ray as well if you want to follow up on anything she has said today. And I would like to just now take the 1 minute, actually there's no minute left, but I still would like to take a minute to thank Ray for a really inspiring session, which was just flying by in my feeling. And it was really, really interesting the way she had put it up and also these questions, and then to see your reactions to it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ray, for a very nice hour. And if you could actually maybe all open the videos and do a little clapping, it would be nice.
Bye. Really great session. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Happy to stay with
yeah, and if you want to ask a question or